So, hello everyone, and welcome back to STW Sports. I'm host Samuel Wright, joined by Cambridge United fan Callum Tofts, and we're going over the footballing weekend review. Well, Callum, we're going to talk about the Premier League. Only one place to begin. Cristiano Ronaldo returns to Manchester United for the first time in 12 years and scores twice on his second debut in a 4-1 victory against Newcastle. Ronaldo still doing Ronaldo things.
He hasn't changed a bit, in my opinion. Full credit to him from still coming back to the Premier League and still wanting a challenge. I think it's credit to him and his mentality. You see interviews with him over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and he's still got that hunger and desire to win trophies over here. And I think it's just an amazing thing to see it. And overall, Man United, in my opinion, look really strong this year so far, with Pogba seems to have this new lease of life, would you say? And I think overall, so far, Man United have looked a completely different team than what they was. And what they can be this year is they've gone under the radar, in my opinion, the signings they've made, which is really surprising for me. Varane's introduction to the team has been a lot more quieter than you would say of Ben White of Arsenal and stuff. I think it's been a really, really key signing for them, having that talisman at the back. And along with Harry Maguire at centre-back, I think that could be a really good pairing as the season goes along.
I mean, obviously, as well, for United, does the Ronaldo signing for you make them very big title? Maybe not favourites, but certainly contenders of what's going to be a very strong Premier League season, you'd imagine, at the top end of the table?
I think they were definitely top 4 anyway, in my opinion. I think last year they done well, finishing second, and overall they're doing really well at the start of the season so far. So I think they're definitely contenders up there in my top 4, and I think it's so close between the top 4 this year. It could go either one or either 4 of them. So they definitely have to challenge this year. I think they kind of have to now, especially with the introduction of Ronaldo. I think the pressure's a bit more on them now with the introduction of them.
Yeah, obviously we started the Premier League weekend with a pretty shock result, actually. Crystal Palace 3, Tottenham Hotspur 0. Tottenham obviously were coming into this game on the back of 3 consecutive 1-0 wins to start the Nuno Espirito Santo era. But Patrick Vieira's got a great record against Tottenham as a player, and he's continued that as a manager. And what a result for Palace this was.
Yeah, I think Spurs will never want to see Vieira in his life. I think he's that kind of player. But I think overall it's Crystal Palace have, in my opinion, they're a rebuild job. I kind of like to think at the moment they've got a whole new manager in after Roy Hodgson's era. They're bringing some good players in. Eduardo, I think that's his name, the striker from Celtic. I think he's going to be a really key introduction, and was scoring 2 goals at the weekend as well. So I think Palace, it's going to take a time, and I think it's a really good result for them and a step in the right direction. But it's about winning games around you as well, not just winning a few big games here and there. I think it's keeping the consistency going for them will be the key thing. But I do believe at the present time they will stay up and stay up comfortably if they keep playing like that. It wasn't the best game. It kind of all happened in the last 30 minutes. But I think overall it can really show the spirit of Crystal Palace, especially coming back from 2-0 down last week and to West Ham. I think it can be a real momentum boost and getting these good results against big teams.
I mean, obviously, as for Spurs, not an ideal result for them, obviously, after what has been a good start to the season. Where do you think they're going to go this season under Santo? Are you expecting big things from them, or do you think it's going to be a bit of a difficult one, obviously, especially with Harry Kane? Obviously, we don't know where his head's at. So where do you see Spurs going this season?
I think this season for Spurs, in my opinion, their main aim would probably be top 6. I think European football is either a must for them. I think they're in the Champions Conference, I think it's called. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but it's a road into the Europa League, but if they win it, but they don't want to be playing, no disrespect to the competition, but it's a lot lower down than they would want. Their Champions League finalists 3 years ago, and I think overall it would hurt their reputation a bit more being down there, but overall they need to take time. I think Mourinho left them in not the best shape within the squad, and it was Mourinho's team. I think he got rid of some players, brought in players that Mourinho wanted, but Nuno needs to kind of understand the players he wants and understands how to build the team he wants. I think the main one everyone wants to have Harry Kane in their team, I think, but it's keeping that squad together and just keeping the players playing the way he wants, but also not changing it too much. The players don't understand their role. I think if you come in straight away and change everything and flip it on its head, the players could be like, well, what's happening? But I think they just need to take the time and just get used to the manager's play style. The manager needs to get used to the players he's got and find out his best starting 11 when they're all fully fit. So it's going to take a while, but I do believe Nuno's going to take Spurs in a better direction than I think the way they were going.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a fair point. Wolves are a team who've really struggled to score goals so far this season. Well, that finally came to an end against Watford. A 2-0 victory, a goal from the debutant. I can't fully pronounce his name. But yeah, the goal from the South Korean forward debutant, and obviously the first goal was an own goal. I'm going to say Hwang was the guy who scored. I know his name is Hwang, but I was just fully making sure. Yeah, 2-0 win for Wolves at Vicarage Road. Good result for Wolves, obviously, but not so promising really for Watford, who, after a good opening day result against Aston Villa, are starting to maybe show a little bit of a lack of quality in the last few games, if you agree.
Yeah, I think I fully agree with what you're saying. I think Wolves have finally found the on button. I think they played well against Man United last week as well. I think they were unlucky to concede, and I think they had some good chances to steal the game off and win the game before Man United scored. But it's about just getting the goals in the Premier League. I think if they didn't get the goals this week, it could have been that Watford could have won it. So it was could have gone either way. I think if whoever scored that first goal would have won it, in my opinion, Wolves won it. So it's going to be a step in the right direction for Wolves, 100%. But it's for Watford. It's like you said, beating Aston Villa in the first weekend of the season is massive, and you kind of think, hang on, they could be all right here. But recently, it's not been the best. But I think they've got Norwich next weekend, so that's, in my opinion, a real test for both teams, because Norwich not having the best start as well. But I think it's going to be a big 6-point relegation battle as it stands. I think I can see both teams being near the bottom, so it's going to be a real test mainly for Watford if they can beat a team that's going to probably be around near where they are at the end of the season.
Brentford suffered their first loss in the Premier League, a 1-0 defeat to Brighton, who currently find themselves in 5th place after what's been a very good start for the Seagulls. Leandro Trossard with a late goal there. Graham Potter's obviously maybe a different type of English manager, really likes to play good football and an expansive style with Brighton. Do you think that in the early stages of the season, it's starting to pay off a little bit for him? And it's been a very good start for Brighton and a little blip for Brentford, but they've started a good start as well, you can say.
Yeah, I think Brighton overall, they kind of go under the radar a bit, in my opinion. I think they're never really a team that people predict to go down. Certainly, in my opinion, I never really think Brighton are going to be that bad to go down, but never really going to battle the top half. They're always kind of my mid-table go-to kind of thing, because they've solidified, in my opinion, a Premier League team, and I would always kind of pick them around that Premier League squad. But I think it could be a time that they might want to push forward a bit more and I think Graham Potter is going to be the manager, to do that. I think he can progress the team forward, and he clearly is. He's been there for a while now, and I think he's implanting what he wants, and he's got the players playing the way he wants as well. And I think that's massive if you want to move up into the league. I think. But looking at Brentford, I think they're going to be absolutely fine. We've seen it with the beating Arsenal and good results here and there. So I think they're going to be okay going into the rest of the season. I think it could obviously all change, and this could be where they decline, but I can't see it happening. Obviously, it's Brighton, got a 1-0 win near the end of the game. So it could definitely have stayed 0-0, or Brentford could have won it. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for Brentford. I think they'll bounce back and hopefully get a few more wins here and there. So I think they'll be absolutely fine going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, been a good start for Brentford and, of course, Brighton, who sit very high in the table right now, as I mentioned earlier on. But speaking of relegation 6-pointers, Arsenal 1, Norwich City 0. A bit of a controversial goal by Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Look, end of the day right now, Arsenal will take a win no matter how it comes, and that's exactly what they got. Not the most convincing, but look, a 1-0 to Arsenal. And what do you think of this, really, and how much was it needed for the Gunners?
I think Arsenal would have taken any win at this point. I think they were taking a point, in my opinion, not to be cruel to them. But I think overall it is a win they needed to get any means necessary. And they did. They got the job done. They got a 1-0. Okay, it wasn't that convincing, but they scored. Norwich didn't. They've got 3 points on the board, and that could be a real momentum boost going into it. I still wasn't convinced by Arsenal, though. Watching the game and watching the highlights, I wasn't convinced that Arsenal showed enough to me that they're going to battle for top six, in my opinion. It's great. I don't think they go into, as it stands, I could be wrong, but they just really didn't show the desire. It's against Norwich and they should be winning. They did, but Norwich still hold their own, and it made it look like challenging for Arsenal at times. And I think it just wasn't a game either team deserved to win, in my opinion. I think it's still trouble at Arsenal. I think there still will be, but it's a step in the right direction with 3 points. But I can't really take any more positives than that. They got 3 points in that.
Obviously, Mikel Arteta, you do still fear for him, of course, and a defeat in their next game against Burnley on Saturday really could spell the end for him. But obviously, this win will spare him, you'd imagine, at least a couple more games at this point. But as for Norwich, they've had a very tough start to the season, obviously. So their game against Watford next week is going to be massive, you'd imagine, and they have to really win that to get some points on the board. Moving on now to the next game, we're going to talk about. Obviously, Leeds-Liverpool was yesterday. We'll go to that one first because obviously Leeds, the fans have returned to Elland Road, and obviously they got that draw with Everton a few weeks ago, a 2-2 draw. But overall, though, it's been a little bit disappointing start though for Leeds, you can say, this season. Not really caught fire, but Liverpool were very good. What's your overall take on the game?
I think it's a tough one to call because I've always loved Leeds and the way they play. I think, people call it Bielsa ball. I think it's such an attractive way to play. And I think he's clearly the right man for the job. But okay, it's the Premier League. You're not going to win loads in games. And they've had and not the easiest start to the season with Everton. Then they drew to Burnley, I think it was, and then lost to Liverpool. I think that's their 3 games. But I think overall, Liverpool probably favourites to go into it, and they won quite comfortably in the end. I think Salah getting 100 goals was good for him, joining the 100 club. So I think that's a good story to have. But I think Leeds are going to be okay again, in my opinion, this season. I think they're going to have bits of down form, and there's going to be times where they're not going to win all the games. So I think Leeds are going to be okay, but they need to start getting a few wins here and there very soon before it's too late and they find themselves near the bottoms and they'll panic has set in. So they just need to stay calm, and I think the wins will come. And they've played some good football. I think they had some good chances to score as well yesterday. So it's going to be okay for Leeds. It's just going to not be as easy, in my opinion, as it was last season.
Yeah, as for Liverpool, do you see them as big title contenders, or do you think they will just fall a little bit short behind the top 3 of Man United, Man City and Chelsea? Do you think their squad depth might catch up with them maybe?
I think the thing that worries me is Liverpool. I know they've got Salah and Mane to score, but there's no key striker in that team. I think we saw it last year with Chelsea they had a key striker in Werner, but he wasn't really scoring the goals. And I think this year it could play dividend to Liverpool with not getting the wins and with the key striker up there. Only time can tell, and obviously they won the league without Trump, but they had Firmino at his best, and Salah and Mane were completely different class that year. I think everything fell into place that year, but it could be another tough season for them. Hopefully, with injuries, obviously we saw the unfortunate injury to Harvey Elliott at the weekend. I think it's a really shame thing to see, and hopefully gets to a speedy recovery. But you could see the impact it had on the players afterwards with another injury, and I think it's going to be another tough season for Liverpool with not the biggest squad in the league, but it's going to be a tough one. But I do believe they're not going to keep the top 2 spaces without a key striker. I don't think you can win. Obviously, it's proven you can win the league without one, but I can't see it continuing without one of them key strikers to score you 20, 30 goals a season.
Yeah, definitely. That could be a big problem for Liverpool this season. Now we're going to go back to the 3 o'clock on Saturday. Sorry, we skimmed over them briefly. Southampton 0, West Ham United 0. Mikel Antonio's red card, probably the main talking point. Obviously, one player of the month in August, so a bit unfortunate for him that his momentum's come crashing down. But Southampton, it's got to be said, despite losing Danny Ings and a few other players in the summer, they've started okay, really, a couple of decent draws. And what's your take on this game?
I think it wasn't the most interesting. A 0-0 is never that interesting, in my opinion. But obviously, like you said, the key point is Antonio being sent off. I think he will still be okay. It's going to be a big headline because he got sent off. But I think he will still score goals to West Ham. I think it was a silly thing to do. It's done. It's over. But I think so far, Southampton have shown promise as well as West Ham. I think both teams have definitely improved from the last few seasons. I think Southampton, we lost Danny Ings, but they brought in Adam Armstrong. I think it's
Yeah.
Armstrong. Yeah, from Blackburn. So been a really good signing, and he's starting to show glimpses. So I think he will start getting the goals eventually. So it's going to be a tough season, for Southampton. But I think for me, we see how well West Ham did with Europa League football and the Premier League. And last time we saw that, they didn't really have the best season at all. So it'll be really interesting to see how they get on again and if their squad's improved from last year. So it's an interesting 0-0 draw with both good two teams, but on the scoreline, it wasn't really that exciting.
Yeah, but perhaps one of the strongest 3 o'clock kickoffs you're ever going to see. Leicester City took on Manchester City in what's a game which does not belong on at 3 p.m. on a Saturday, in my opinion. But Man City won it 1-0. Bernardo Silva scored the goal. Good result for City away at the King Power Stadium. Very tough place to go. And yeah, just what Pep Guardiola's men needed after that opening day defeat to Tottenham and a couple of easy home wins after that. And but yeah, a good big away win here, which was very much needed, you can say.
I fully agree. I think for me, Man City are going to be up there again, especially the way they're playing at the moment. Okay, they didn't have the best opening day, but so far it's been quite easy, would you say, against Norwich and Arsenal, both high-scoring games, and they're scoring loads. It's a much different test. I think away to Leicester, like you said, the King Power was never an easy place to win, and it was a very cagey affair. But I think overall, that's what you need to if you're going to win the league. You're going to have to get straight them 1-0 wins against teams that would be around near the top 4 and top 6. So overall, good result for Man City. I don't think it's going to damage Leicester too much. I still think they've got enough to go forward this year and hopefully get that top 4 that they've been pushing for the last few years. So overall, not really too much worry, in my opinion, for Leicester overall, and a good win for Man City.
Yeah, Leicester could probably do with picking up their form, but they've had a pretty tough start on paper, so I'm sure that will come in time. Chelsea, arguably the title favourites. Romelu Lukaku was added again, a 3-0 victory at home to Aston Villa. To be fair, watching this game, it doesn't really tell the whole story. Villa were quite unlucky to lose by this margin. What's your take on this, though, and does it really prove just how strong Chelsea are going to be this season?
I think, for me, it was it's a tough one to say, but I think overall, Chelsea took their chances. Aston Villa didn't. That's the best way you can put it. I think Aston Villa had some chances to draw level, possibly go 2-1 up. I think Watkins could have scored, but Thiago Silva made some good defending. I think Mendy was brilliant and excellent again overall. So I think it's a real tale of Chelsea took their chances that they got. Aston Villa didn't. I think Lukaku's just been brilliant since he come back to the Premier League. I also think Kovacic was amazing. He got the assist to the first one, which was a really good pass, and he scored as well. So overall, it's a really good win for Chelsea. Also, think Saul wasn't the best on his debut, but I think there's improvement there. I think there's signs he just needs to understand you're not going to get time on the ball in the Premier League and make them passes a bit quicker. But I think he had glimpses of some good passes. So I think the introduction of him, it's just made Chelsea stronger once he gets comfortable into the Premier League. I think as it stands, Chelsea are my pick to win the league. I think they go into, as they've got the key striker, they've got a really good defensive midfield and a good goalkeeper and a manager who knows his players and knows how to win a game. So I think at the moment, they're my favourites.
I agree with you there, Callum. They're certainly the favourites, in my opinion, right now. Very strong looking Chelsea. There's actually a Premier League game going on right now, guys. Everton are 0-0 with Burnley. If Everton win that, they will move into the top 4. But yeah, it's going to be, obviously, Sean Dyche side are always a difficult one to beat, but the game is at Goodison Park. And Rafa Benitez has started quite well as Everton manager, really, which is a bit of a shock, obviously, considering all the backlash from when he originally got given the job at the start of the season. Callum, we're actually going to touch on League One. Obviously, you support a League One club, so I do think it will be right. And we're not going to talk about Cambridge first. We're going to talk about Ipswich Town, who came into the season as everyone's favourite, not everyone's, but majority of people's favourites. They've had a terrible start to the season, and they were beaten 5-2 by Bolton Wanderers, who only just came up from League Two last season. Can you really put your finger on what's going on at Cambridge? What's going on at Ipswich Town right now? And how they can really get out of this mess at the moment, because it just doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
I think for me, it's a mystery. I think for most people, I think for anyone associated with Ipswich or anyone who watches the game, like, how are they losing these? They can't seem to get a win. I think a few weeks ago they had a few good results and they were scoring and losing at the last minute, so then things could be ironed out. But against at home to a newly promoted team. I know Bolton started really well, and a team that are looking to do big things in League One this year, but it just doesn't seem to be fixed unless it's the managerial problems or the players not seem to be playing for the manager, or there's something happening, in my opinion, at Ipswich, but no one really knows what. I can't really seem to understand how it's got this bad. Okay, you can understand a few bad results here and there, but so overall, I just can't see nothing changing. And yeah, it's a real, in my opinion, real bad time for Ipswich fans. They brought in some good players. They brought in a good striker in Joe Pigott from Wimbledon, who scored loads of goals. So it's a real mystery at the moment, in my opinion, what's happening.
It doesn't seem like Wimbledon are missing Joe Pigott too much, because they had a thrilling 4-3 win at Morecambe at the weekend. Probably the best game in League One, you could probably say, at the weekend. Yeah, what a game. What a dramatic game. And obviously a stoppage time winner for Wimbledon as well. Yeah, talk us through that one. Crazy stuff, really.
Where to begin? I think overall, I want to say well done to Morecambe. I think along with coming into the league, they were really a team that most people fit to be right down the bottom and not really getting many points at all. But they're fighting for every game. And I think it's such a brilliant thing to see so far, and how well they're doing and how far they've come from almost getting out of the league a couple of years ago to now mid-table in League One and looking comfortable as well. I think, okay, they didn't get the win, but the signs are there. I think Wimbledon are a team to look out for as a dark horse possibly this season, the playoff, possibly automatics. I think they're kind of going under the radar a little bit, but getting results here and there. So it's a real one to look out for, in my opinion. I think that, like you said, it is, in my opinion, game of the weekend. I think it's such an amazing game, and fair play to Wimbledon for getting the win, and that's what you need to do.
Yeah, been a good start. Wimbledon are actually fourth in the table as well, which is crazy to think. Fair play to them after, a lot of people tip them to be right down there. But top of the table is Sunderland. Very good start for them. They lost Charlie Wyke, obviously, in the summer. A lot of people weren't too optimistic for the Black Cats, but right now they're doing well. Are you expecting them to stay up there?
I think so. I think it was a good game. I think they need to get the win. I think overall, as the way it stands, it's their time to now go up a division. I think they've got a good manager and a good young team. I think they can definitely progress into the Championship, and hopefully, I don't know, their aim is to get back to where they were eventually at some point. So I think they can definitely do that, but it's going to take some time to get back to where they were. But it's a step in the right direction from what it has been a few years ago, and they keep getting closer and closer every year. So I do believe it is their time to go up either by automatics or through the playoffs this year.
Yep, going to touch on League Two briefly as well. Forest Green Rovers are back to the top of League Two after their victory at the weekend. Obviously, Harrogate have played a game less, though, but good result for Forest Green. And again, like Sunderland, I will ask the same question. Are you expecting them to stay up there?
I think as it stands, they will. I think they're definitely going to be playoffs guaranteed, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a real challenge to see if they get top three or the playoffs. It's going to be an interesting one to see what happens. But overall, they beat a good Northampton team, come down from League One. It's a game that probably their fans just think they were going to win, but it's not given in League Two. So they got the win, they grinded the results out, and they're up there still. Okay, Harrogate can still go top, but just step in, it's another win, and that's what you need to do. Not worry about teams around you, and just get the wins on the board and see where you end up.
Yep, and we're going to talk about Sutton United briefly, who got their first win, a 2-1 win over Stevenage. Great result for them, and what a moment for Sutton, really. Obviously, their first victory in the Football League, I believe.
Yes, the first one. I think it's just nice to see. I think they deserve the win. They've played some good football over the few weeks as well, and been unlucky at points. So it's really nice to see them getting their first win, and it's nothing more than they deserve. I think they deserve that fully. So it's a really good step in the direction. Hopefully they can get a few more wins and keep pushing forward. So it's going to be a really interesting time to see what happens for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and while we're on the subject of teams at the top of the table, like we were earlier, West Bromwich Albion and Fulham, West Bromwich Albion are 1 point above Fulham at the top of the Championship, but Fulham were beaten by Blackpool at the weekend, and West Brom drew with Millwall. So maybe a little bit of, not complacency necessarily, but those teams are beatable. Two teams who are looking very strong, really, just come down from the Premier League, obviously. Do you think that, this weekend has proven in the Championship that it's going to be a wide open league this year again?
Yeah, I said it at the start, and it didn't really seem to go that way. It kind of be taken away from them two teams, but it's going to be such a tight division again. I think it's tighter than most leagues have been, like the Championship, for the last few years. So, because really, you look at the teams in the top 10, most of them can either get the playoffs or go up. So, it's really interesting to see, and really interesting to see what happens for the rest of the season for them, for both teams.
Yep, obviously Championship is going to be a very interesting league as usual. But Callum, the Champions League returns this week. Obviously, the group stages are back. Very exciting times. Obviously, this is a little bit of an on-the-spot question, but any teams who are standing out for you this year? Because you used to have your Bayern Munich's, Barcelona's, Real Madrid's, who you'd always say would be up there, but times have changed in that sense now, really. So, is there a team you're looking at, who is in it this year, and you do think, they can win it this year and they're going to be strong? Is there any team in particular?
I think for me, you're going to have to look at Man City, Chelsea. I think the teams in the farm last year, they're always going to be around there again. Chelsea defending champions, can they do it again? Arguably, possibly. I think you look at the teams in there. Bayern, for me, they still look strong as ever. But also, I think Dortmund could easily go up, be near the final again. I think they've got a really good striker in Eric Haaland. I think they've got a good young team. Okay, they lost Sancho, which is a massive blow for them, but I still think they're going to be round there. And obviously, you look at PSG, I think I don't really want PSG to win it because it seems to all out on the money, in my opinion, for them. I think they just kind of think they're playing fancy football, in my opinion, just buying anyone they want. But with Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, Sergio Ramos, all these great players, I think, as much as I don't want to say it, I think their time is now. I think they are going to win it, but I don't really want that to happen. But I think it's going to. So I think it's going to be between Chelsea, Man City, and PSG. They're my main three that are going to be around there by the end semi-final way.
Well, I'm going to make this a tradition on the channel, as in when a Champions League match day comes. And ask you to predict the score in one game. And this match day, there's only going to be one. I'm going to ask you Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. And we all know what happened last time these two teams met in August 2020. I don't think it'll be that score again. I'm sure you don't think that as well. But it's at the Nou Camp. What is your prediction for that game? Barcelona, Bayern Munich.
I think my prediction. See, I could say 8-2 as a laugh, but I don't think it's going to be realistic. So I'm going to say 3-1 Bayern. I can't see Barca doing that well in the Champions League this year. So I think Bayern are going to comfortably win the game, but I can see them Barcelona scoring. So 3-1, I think, is going to be a fair prediction.
Yeah, no, I'd probably go with that as well. Barcelona, obviously, no Lionel Messi anymore, a little bit of a depleted squad. Bayern Munich, yeah, they've still got the majority of their team, and you'd probably expect them to come away from the Nou Camp with a fairly comfortable win, considering the state of both. I'm just going to briefly ask as well, Callum, about the Europa League. Any teams in that you possibly think could do it this year? Obviously, with the Champions League dropouts, though, you never really know until they come in. So, but any teams are in it right now who stand out for you?
It's a tough one because I always like to back the English teams because it feels like kind of necessary. But I think for me, Bayern Leverkusen they're always a team that's around that area, kind of a team that, okay, they lost Leon Bailey and Havertz over the last few years, but they've still got some good young players and a good young team. So they're a team that could arguably be up there. Again, obviously, you look at West Ham. Okay, they might not do the best, but they're still a team that could possibly do something. But I think for me, it's the game that's going to start one of the Leicester Napoli. I think them two teams are going to be very, very close this year. I think they're going to go in both deep into the competition. So I would like to think I would love Leicester or West Ham to win it, but I think for me, it's going to either come down to a team that's going to drop out from the Champions League, or I can see Bayern Leverkusen or possibly Napoli winning it.
Yeah, that's all fair. And I'm going to ask one more question, Callum. I always ask this. Well, I'm going to always ask this from the end from now on. Your favourite moment from the football this weekend. So, what's been your standout moment?
Well, it won't be Cambridge, but
I think not Cambridge.
I think for the occasion, and I think a lot of people were going to predict this, but I'm not going to say Ronaldo. I think for me, and it pains me to say it, and it's kind of gone under the radar a bit as a Cambridge fan, I'm going to say Luton scoring the last minute. And it's a shame, but 98th minute, and it's an ex-Cambridge player who scored both goals. So I think overall, I'm going to say the Blackburn-Luton game. I think overall, 98-minute equaliser. It can't really go wrong. But also want to give a shout out to Sheffield United for beating Peterborough 6-2. That's my two for the week best moments of the weekend.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Sheffield United can't score a goal and then 6 come along at once. So, been pretty crazy. But that's all we've got time for anyway on the footballing weekend review. But thank you very much for joining me, Callum. Pleasure as usual. And we'll see you all soon.